We're good? Cool. Well, Dani, thanks for joining me this morning. I think it's still this morning, yeah. So I had to get up early. I'm sure you did too, but I'm going to go Billy Madison on you here. We're going to go back to school today.
Okay.
All right? So first thing I want to ask you, we're going to go all the way back. We're going to chronologically take this kindergarten through high school. I want to ask you, what is your earliest memory of school? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about school?
My first memory, and so I think it's part memory, part story, I guess, because my parents always talk about it. But my first day of school, I got on the bus from my daycare, but my mom and dad came to watch me get on the bus for the first time and stuff. And most of the other little kids were like, sad, like, I don't want to leave. And I was like, well, bye. And I like jumped on the bus, and I was like so happy. And my parents are always just talking about how that's just kind of my personality. Like, I'm just fine with jumping into things.
Sure.
And they were just like, you didn't even give us a time to hug you or anything. She was just like, boom, and she's gone. So that was my first memory. I'm very excited.
So that probably leads me into what I was going to ask you next. Do you remember what kind of your emotions were, those feelings, hopping on the bus, waiting for the bus, all those things that go into your first day?
I think I was just very excited. One thing that's always stuck with me is the smell of a bus. Like, when it picks you up and when it leaves, like, I love that smell. Like, some people might think it stinks,
that fake leather smell.
Yeah. I don't know, there's just something about it from that first day. It made me feel, like, really confident.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things you enjoyed about school? Still talking about, your earliest recollections of it.
I would say what I enjoyed most was the friends. Like, I was always a very social butterfly kind of person, which got me into trouble a lot. Like, early elementary school, like first, second, third grade, I would get something called a blue slip. So they were like things teachers would give out to like kids who were being naughty. In mine, I think when I was in first grade, I got 3 blue slips, which was a lot for a first grader. But the reasoning was always for talking to other people, like while the teacher was talking, or like trying to get kids to like, hey, let's talk about something else or whatever. But so basically, I loved the social aspect so much, and so much so that it got me in trouble, I guess.
So those blue slips, those didn't go on the fridge, I gotta assume.
No.
Yeah, those weren't the proud moments.
No.
I was that same kid. Well, I was the one who learned swear words before everybody else.
Oh my gosh.
So I was that kid the teacher really had to keep an eye on, so I wasn't influencing everybody. But
oh my goodness.
So was there things that you didn't particularly enjoy? Were there things you didn't like?
Gosh, I don't know. I didn't like the homework, obviously. I was never a fan of math, even from when I was younger. I've always been good at math, not excelling in it. I've always been fine at it. It just hasn't been that enjoyable to me. And science, not a huge science fan. But other than that, I don't really know. I was always excited to go to school. Nothing in those early years that I can identify that I really didn't like.
Right. So that kind of segues in what I was going to ask you next. What were your favorite subjects? What really interests you? Moving more towards high school, junior high, actual classes now. So.
I loved history. So even from when I was little, like history was my favorite class. History or social studies or whatever. Super interesting to me. Which was a lot of kids' least favorite. I feel like they didn't like that class, but I loved it. And once I started taking psych classes, so I'm a psych major now, and that started my junior year of high school. I took my first psych class. So once I took that, there were more like individual classes like that in high school, or electives, I guess.
Right.
So once I was able to start taking those classes, got really excited about psychology and ended up taking the AP class after that.
So it sounds like psychology was kind of something that you picked up a little bit, probably after high school, found like an interest in. Are there any classes that you are interested in that you wish you would have explored a little bit more?
From high school?
Yes.
I wish I would have taken more, like, I wish I would have taken like a woods class or
Shop work type stuff?
Yeah, or ceramics or something like that. I did take 3 art classes, which I absolutely loved. I think I took Art 1, Art 2, and Senior Art or something like that. But I loved those classes because I really enjoyed drawing. So I'm really pleased that I took those classes. I wish I would have taken something like that in college even. But I wish I would have explored more of like the wood shop and that stuff in high school.
Yeah, that stuff was requirements for us in junior high. We had to do metal, woods, like you said, like the ceramics, all that type of thing. So just in general, like what kind of student were you? You said you were kind of the talkative one, the social butterfly, but...
Yeah, that didn't get me really into trouble in high school. I was still really social in high school, but it didn't, not to the point of getting me in trouble. As a little kid, I didn't know how to control myself. But, what kind of student was I in high school, I guess?
Yeah, sure.
I got pretty good grades. I think my GPA in high school was like 3.5, which is the same now.
Very
so I think
above average,
yeah. I was pretty good in school. I wasn't obsessed with getting A's by any means, which I'm still not. I think I just, because I enjoy the social aspect so much, like I value getting good grades, but not so much to the point where I'm not enjoying myself at being social. I played soccer through high school, so I was kind of athletic. I wasn't really involved in anything else, like I wasn't in plays or anything like that. I was involved with my youth group at church, but that was kind of an outside thing.
Sure. So just kind of ask you to jump into your self-image here. How do you think your classmates would remember you, or how would you want to be remembered, I should say?
Oh gosh. Well, those are 2 different questions. I'll answer them both. The first one, how do I think my classmates would remember me? Different from the beginning of high school to the end of high school. So I would say the beginning of high school, I was definitely like in the popular crowd, hung out with like, dated like the football players and the hockey players, and was your typical like, I don't know, popular girl, like kind of stuck up maybe. But then later in high school, I kind of got out of that crowd. I was just really sick of it. Wasn't into drinking, wasn't into partying and that kind of stuff. I just wasn't interested in it. And that's kind of where all my friends went with it. And I was just kind of like, maybe not. So I kind of got into a new group of friends. Not totally new, still some of the same friends. But just a little more low-key and not so out there, I guess.
Yeah, you had to make that split.
Yeah,
so
definitely. And that, yeah, it was good. So I think in the beginning of high school they would remember me as that, but then in the end of high school they would probably remember me as being a little more reserved and more quiet.
I could see that. I see where they're at. Are you still friends with any of these people?
My best friend now is still my best friend from high school. Actually, we became better friends once we got out of high school, even. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. But we started becoming really, really good friends, like junior, senior year of high school, and then we just became best friends in college, which we went to different schools like 40 minutes away, so that was kind of cool how that happened. But other than that, I don't really talk to that many people from high school.
Okay.
Most of my friends are from college now, which is nice and kind of what I wanted. Like, I kind of wanted to get away from people in high school and just like, nope, moving on. I don't want to hang out with you people forever. So it's kind of weird when I go home. I know whenever I go home, I'm going to see somebody from high school. And it never fails. Every time, whether it's Target or the gas station or whatever. It's weird and it's awkward.
Yep. It's like clockwork. You can always count on it. So those are your friends. Let's talk about the other person in the room, the teachers. So was there a particular teacher who had any kind of strong influence in your life, or someone that really impacted you more than others?
Yeah, I would say my that first psychology class I took was taught by Mrs. D, and she taught all the social studies classes. So she taught like history and social studies, and then psychology and stuff too. So I had her for all those classes, and her and I just really got along, and we talked about our families, and I never really had a connection with a teacher like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to take her basic psychology class. It was fall semester junior year, and I really loved it. And she inspired me and challenged me to take the AP psychology class, which was spring semester. And it was going to be way more advanced, way more in-depth, way more of a faster pace. And I was kind of worried about it if I could handle it because I'd never taken an AP class before. And she just like really pushed me to do it. And since she pushed me so hard to do it and I did it, I fell in love with psychology even more, which is why I'm a psych major. And so she really influenced my future.
Okay.
She probably doesn't know it that much, but yeah.
Well, that's yeah. So I think one of the last questions, we'll kind of wrap this up soon, I believe, but want to kind of ask you, do you have any favorite stories, any kind of funny things that happened to you while in high school? Anything memorable that occurred?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Not really like funny stories off the top of my head. I went on a couple of sweet mission trips, which were really fun and crazy. We did stupid stuff as soccer players. Went TPing for the first time. Oh, okay, this is a funny story.
Okay.
The summer after my senior year, I started dating the guy who was now my husband, and we were friends with a guy named Derek, and then my sister, and we were all hanging out one night, and I had never gone TPing. I don't know why, I just hadn't, which is crazy as a high schooler. And sometimes when people TP, I feel like it's like they know the people and it's just funny and stuff. But sometimes it actually is because they don't like the person.
Oh yeah,
And because like the cross country team, the guys would TP the girls and they knew who it was, and it was just the expected thing. But we decided to TP my ex-boyfriend Mac, who was a total douchebag. Like he played football and like whatever, dumped me for a stupid reason a couple years before, and nobody really liked him anymore. He was just kind of a loser, and we were like, let's TP Mac. So anyway, we ended up going and TPing his house at like 2 a.m. or something, and it was the best TP job you've like ever seen in your life. Like it looked like it snowed in their yard and on their house and on their cars and everything, and it rained a couple hours later.
Oh no.
And it
all got
awesome.
Yeah.
And he never found out who it was.
I got hit twice in high school. Well, we used to, out of my front yard, we used to water balloon cars because I had some hedges in the front yard, so we'd hide behind the hedges and just huck them over. Well, I hit one of my buddies, and the guys that TP'd me were actually my friends. Mm-hmm. We hit their car. He knew it came from my yard, so I got hit once really bad, and then the next weekend after I had just cleaned up everything, like I got whacked again. But it was all in good fun. I knew who was doing it, and I knew the reason for why they were doing it. But even they were saying, like, at the end of it, like, the second time we did it, God, we felt like real dicks that second time. Like, 1 was fine, 2 was too much.
Yeah, right.
So thanks for kind of blast the past there here. It was a good talk. Thanks for joining me, Dani. So take care.
Yeah. You too.